awesome. We are so honored to be sitting with one of Businesswomen's Association South Africa's board members. But not only is she that, she is an icon in the South African industry. I'm actually going, 5M, why haven't we spoken and just sat down with her way beyond this? Because you are you embody what women are looking up to and what women want to be. And I was at your book launch, first and foremost.
Wasn't it overwhelmingly
It was
extraordinary? The turnout, thousands of people came out to support, to celebrate one of their own. And you know what also just blessed me immensely was to seeing leaders across the political spectrum. Different political parties came out, people from near and far. So I'm still actually trying to process that, what happened on the 10th of October. You know, when you own your own story and you use your own voice, little do you know how you can impact so many other lives. So yeah, so thank you for coming to the book launch.
Absolutely, but what's awesome is what Basi talks about in her book is the things that we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
So this is why I love what you do, because you really embody every part of it, every element of it. You say, yes, gender-based violence is a thing. I experienced that. Pick me, let me tell you my story.
It looks like me. It knows no class, no status, no socioeconomic, standing. So it's a reality. And it was very important for me in my book to write a raw, a candid and an honest account of my life journey and not sanitize anything. Because then that would be rather disingenuous, but also disrespect my audience, my reader. And you rightly point out, the conversation and the dialogue that we had with the President today addresses so many facets of where women are, where women should go, and how government can impact that trajectory. And of course, how corporate South Africa as well can play a part. And so I was very, enthused to hear the serious pronouncements that the President has made, even around gender-based violence, that perpetrators will not get bail, that the justice system and the ecosystem around justice needs to be more effective to protect women.
Because they're protecting the perpetrators at the moment, especially within corporate.
Exactly, so in terms of even the corporate, sexual harassment, some of the, questions that came from the floor, very disheartening stories. Women who are facing literally being violated at work. And so for me to have had, a deeper narrative and understanding from the President in terms of the action plans was very promising.
What was your favorite thing about today? I think mentioned by the President, we have a very young audience, so we're talking more young women who are starting off, who have to maybe experience these things in their first year of work. So what would you recommend, what would you say, firstly, let's take it a step back. What would you say to young women entering the workspace, young women entering relationships? What would you say to them right now based on what we've experienced today?
Fix, you know what for me was a key takeout? First of all, was to hear the stats that we're having more women educated in tertiary institutions, and therefore it is incumbent upon government and corporate South Africa to then bring these women along. When you getting into your first job, owning your own voice and not being afraid. The President spoke very vociferously about that we should not be quiet, we should not be silent, we should use our voices, we should challenge the status quo, we should move the needle, and equally so we should bring others along. And even women who are coming into whatever industry it is, whether it's the creative economy, whether it's in academia, what is important is that you have to walk your mission and your life purpose, but don't be afraid to fail as well. And this is from my own personal experience. When I, got into well, I've always been self-employed since I was at the age of 20, and daring to dream and not being afraid to fail. Allowing myself to make mistakes, but not letting those mistakes define my destiny.
But more than anything, it's people speaking up. Women need to speak up. Don't sit in the corner. And that's one thing I kept hearing him say, because I have sat in the corner many a time where I've not put my hand up or I've not said, hi, I was also, abused once upon a time in my life, and I haven't spoken up about it because I'm a public figure.
Yeah.
So I think...
And that's what I loved about the president when he said to us, if there was a masking tape over your mouth, remove it. You need to own your own voice. We need to speak up and speak out and challenge the status quo. I was also very enthused in how he is framing a new narrative, even within his departments, that are going to create an enabling environment for women. I mean, the issue of gender parity, for example, at least government has addressed that, but we see corporate South Africa is lagging behind. And how it's important for us to speak up, because, you know, men, if they believe that they're good for a raise, they're going to walk into the CFO's office boldly. But here will a NOMSA sit back and say, I'm not sure if I'm worthy of an increase, when she's working 10 times harder.
I don't have the qualifications, but a man doesn't have the qualifications, but he will still apply.
He will still apply, because oftentimes I think as women we also suffer from imposter syndrome. And so if somebody is not going to invite you at the table, well, baby girl, you better just pull up a chair and you take your seat at the table, because you deserve it.
Absolutely, and I want us to mimic those words loud and clear to all of our 5FM listeners, all of our female listeners. It's so important. Women, we need to stop coloring inside the line. Let's get outside the line. It's absolutely fine.
Break the mold.
Break the mold.
And then rebuild it again. You know, the president also spoke about creative destruction. So for societies to move forward, we've got to do things differently now and rebuild a new mold to take us into the next 25 years of our democracy, and not being afraid to try new things.
Courage.
To own your voice and to have the courage to know that you can write a different narrative about what you can achieve, not what people expect of you, what you expect of yourself, to bring excellence in everything you do. And I want to encourage that. In so many ways, and that's what my book is also about, a face of hope, a face of possibilities.
For women who, okay, so there's always, and this is my last question, there's always this, I would say, this gap between older women, I should say your mentors, and your younger women who are like, I'm starting off, but where's the connection between us? Do we come to Business Women's Association? How do we find ourselves in the same places? Because sometimes we look at BWASA and go, this is too old for me. Maybe I'm not mature enough, but I'm a young entrepreneur.
The BWASA is a good starting point, because we network women, we mentor women, we pair women, young and old, startups and established, JS-listed companies and entrepreneurs. So we're all about an organization that brings young people from the get-go, whether you're starting a flower shop or a baking shop, or whether you sit on the board of Anglo American. There is space and room for all of us to grow, and that's why we're all about also paying it forward, and bringing others along, bringing a new generation along, because sooner or later we would have to move on in life, and we want to be able to know that we've created a generation of young, dynamic women who are going to take our economy forward and indeed our country forward.
I see, I love that. So get involved. You can get involved. Doesn't matter how young, where you are, what growth space you're in. Get involved, you can. This is about you. If you're a female in South Africa right now, this whole thing is about
Come
us,
hang
right
with
now.
us.
Hang with us. I see you're amazing. Thank you so much. Go get her book, by the way. You have to go get her book. You're great. Thank you so much.
Bless you.
Appreciate you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
5FM. Watch 5FM TV on YouTube. 5FM.